seeing some young 20-year-old come in with a backpack, that was the most surprising thing. You go to meetings with people, but you see these people coming in with backpacks and they're so nervous in that first meeting, right? And then 5 years later, I'm helping them sell their company for 40 million, right? That's the best feeling.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Leumi Tech, sponsored by Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Turing, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, and in media partnership with C-Tech. What is it like being a startup lawyer? Today I'm joined by Mital Makadia, partner of Grellas Shah, LLP. Mital Makadia is a partner at Grellas Shah and co-founder of Solved4, a cost-effective alternative dispute resolution service aimed at founders and startups. Her practice is focused on representing technology startups and startup founders. She provides counsel on a variety of corporate and transactional matters and negotiates and structures equity financing, M&A transactions, and commercial and intellectual property transactions for her clients. A TechCrunch Verified Expert Lawyer, Mittal is passionate about helping startups succeed by equipping founders with the legal tools and knowledge they need to support their employees, protect business relationships, and drive growth. Mital Makadia, thank you so much for joining me for 20-Minute Leaders all the way from Fremont, correct?
Milpitas, yes. But thank you for having me. I'm excited. Looking forward to it.
I'm really excited for these next 20 minutes talking about, the intersection between law and entrepreneurship. I've had a lot of entrepreneurs here. I've had a lot of investors here, a lot of technology leaders, non-technology leaders. I haven't had many lawyers, and I'm excited. No,
we're
not yet.
definitely here in the ecosystem.
100%. And I'm especially excited now to hear a little bit from your insight, both your own journey becoming a partner at Grellas Shah, but also things that you're observing, things that you're seeing, and as a young entrepreneur, how can I best navigate, my experiences from the lenses of somebody that is seeing some of these disputes and seeing some of the things that are happening. So, Mital, tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, who are you?
Sure. I'm a partner at a boutique firm in Cupertino in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley. So, but most of my work is representing tech startups. About 80% of my work, I would say, is representing tech startups. And I represent, anywhere from the single bootstrapped founder all the way to, large corporation, venture-backed, VC funded and hundreds of employees. So It's really, we run the gamut. And we do everything from, incorporation to their commercial contract work to their deal work. Most of my focus is on financings and M&A transactions. But at Grellas Shah, we wear many hats. We like to say that we're essentially outside general counsel for companies that can't afford general counsel yet. And so at the startup, when you're working with startups, you kind of have to wear many hats. As many CEOs of startups will tell you, they wear many hats. We do the same thing here. So we do everything from their corporate work, their commercial contract work, their litigation, which I'm not a litigator, but that does happen, and IP work, patents, trademarks, kind of the whole gamut. If there's a building lease you need reviewed, I'll review it. And so,
wonderful.
We help our clients achieve what they want to achieve, and help them fundraise and help them get sold.
Well, I think one of the things
we don't do IPOs, but short of that.
One of the things that I'm hearing automatically is this idea that you're listing a lot of the different things that you're doing. A lot of these things are probably things that I wouldn't even know to list off the top of my head that I might need as a young entrepreneur. And I think that's a huge part of it, is this idea that you're a partner, you're an outsourced general counsel, you're an outside general counsel that is providing similar services. And as a founder, I know how illiterate I have to say I am with the legal things that I'm going to have to do. And I'm imagining myself creating a company soon. And I'm trying to figure out how the hell am I going to get all this information, and how am I going to know what I need to do? And so
yes, there's.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of information out there, and as you can attest, when you're a CEO, there's many hats that you have to wear, but also there's a lot of topics that you can delve into, right? You can really go down the rabbit hole and delve into how to best hiring practices, how to recruit, how to do marketing, how to your product development, your IP. Legal is one side of it, obviously, but and on any given day as an entrepreneur, you're trying to decide, what to devote your time and energy to. And so hopefully the legal is one aspect that we can take off your plate.
Definitely. And so tell me a little bit about your own journey, how you got to Grellas Shah and how you even got to knowing that you want to be in this space.
I actually fell into it. I was right after law school. I was in New York and I was doing public company securities work at the larger firms in New York and in DC. And I got married and I moved out here. And I thought that's the kind of work I would continue to do. Right. I wanted to go in house and I wanted to do public company securities work. And of course, that was I think 2011, 2010, and that was not an option. Those were not good times for lawyers or really anyone in the finance industry, right? So I like to say when I was in New York and DC, you could feel the stress and the anxiety. I would say cab drivers were depressed in New York during that time, and then I came here, and it was another world, right? There's excitement, there's a hope, and I don't want to go to say too much about Silicon Valley here, but obviously that exists all over the world now. But back then it was really an exciting time, and on a fluke, I applied at Grellas Shah thinking it would just be a temporary stop, and I didn't have I wasn't focused on startups at that time, but 1 week there and you fall in love, you love it.
You fall in love.
You're working with people who actually are putting their blood, sweat, and tears right into the work. You're not just representing or in daily contact with some mid-level VP at a large bank or a large corporation. You're actually and I get to know my clients, right? I become friends with them. I want to know what's going on in their lives, and I can do that here, and I can help them, and that's the greatest feeling. And so, yeah, I started doing the startup work, and I love it.
And so when you joined Grellas Shah, what I'm hearing is that you didn't care too much about the startup ecosystem. You weren't living and breathing the startup ecosystem. It's something that you discovered after you joined, and then you fell in love with it, right?
Yeah, no, I come from a family of doctors, right? When you're an Indian American, you're going to be a doctor. And so, no, I never knew anybody who had done a startup or working at a startup or really software engineers until I.
What surprised you coming in from New York?
I kind of fell into it.
Coming in from New York and DC, what surprised you about what's happening here, about this ecosystem, and maybe about behavior of people? All of a sudden, you're not dealing with top execs, in suits. You're dealing with sometimes young people, 20-year-olds with T-shirts that are saying like, "Hey, we have this really cool idea. We have some money. We don't really know what to do with it."
That's my favorite part. Honestly, seeing some young 20-year-old come in with a backpack, that was the most surprising thing. Like, you go to meetings with backpacks, but you see these people coming in with backpacks, and they're so nervous in that first meeting, right? And then 5 years later, I'm helping them sell their company for 40 million, right? It's that's the best feeling, and seeing their progression.
Right. And so what is
they come back after that as well. The serial entrepreneurs, once you've been kind of bitten by the entrepreneur bug, I guess, you go through the process of getting sold to Cisco or Google or Facebook or whatever. You do your stint there, whether that's 2 years or 4 years, to get your vested equity. Then they leave. Sometimes they leave before they even get their full money from the acquisition.
Wow.
Because they're so used to being on their own and creating something that it's really hard for them to then be in this large environment. And then they come back to me, right? Just today I'm doing a financing round for somebody who I think his company got sold for $250 million last week.
Wow.
And he's already like moving on. Like, aren't you taking a vacation?
What?
Yeah.
That is incredible.
There's some tax reasons why he has to park some of the money, but yeah. So they're already on to their next venture.
That is incredible. What is this relationship like with you and the entrepreneurs? What do you see come up often? Is it mainly legal consultation? Is it also understanding the world a little bit differently? Are you able to warn them of some things that they might not even be aware of? How does the relationship work?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just educating them, right? Technically, I mean, I'm really just providing legal advice, right? But a lot of it is kind of I see the norms and what's market, and so most entrepreneurs, most startup founders, the first time they're doing it, especially, they don't quite know, what do I value this at? How much equity do I give? Obviously, I can't give those answers, but I can give them just general advice on what's norm at this stage for them in their industry, and that's valuable to clients. And really just kind of helping them focus, right? I mean, like I said earlier, you can really just go down the rabbit hole on any given topic, but kind of steering them and saying, look, these are the things you actually need to worry about. Don't get bogged down on this issue. And guiding them that way, I think, is probably where most of my value add is in my relationship with clients.
Do you notice that?
And really, kind of showing them what's ahead, what the pitfalls are ahead.
Are there common things or questions or concerns that you see entrepreneurs, perhaps young entrepreneurs, early on in their journey, their first venture, some concerns that come up that you say, wow, this thing keeps coming up, and maybe this is something that a lot of young entrepreneurs should be aware of, or things that they should either be not as concerned about, or they should be more thoughtful of as they go about their journey? Do you see some of these things?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of with YC safes, for example, there's a lot of information out there in open source documents that, and there's a lot of online tools for fundraising and incorporation.
Right.
So a lot of it's automated, which is great. I use those tools myself, but I think especially first time entrepreneurs, they use these online tools, but they don't quite know what it all adds up to at the end. Right?
Yeah.
They don't quite know how much dilution they've actually taken. They're not using Carta properly. So I think it's fine to do all of those things, but keep an eye on your dilution. It's very easy to say, well, how can I justify a 10 million cap? Like let's fundraise using just a 6 million cap. But then you end up raising so much at the end of the day when you increase your valuation cap and you do a second round at a higher valuation, and then you finally do your Series A, then there's sticker shock when they look at how much dilution they've actually taken along. And so some of it is necessary, but keep an eye and plan for it. If you're not planning for it, it's really easy to just print out that YC safe and sign on the dotted line and take the check. But keep an eye on it.
So what I'm hearing you say here is that, there's a lot of tools, there's a lot of dissemination of information, things are accessible, but it's in the details at the end. At the end, it's the details that count.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay attention to the details, or you don't have somebody to raise their red flag or to translate, what this 7-page document at the end means tangibly, in a liquidation event, then you kind of miss the point in a lot of ways, right?
Right. And there's a lot of information out there. So at this point, if you're a founder who doesn't understand, liquidation preference, or who doesn't understand some basic things, like you should get yourself educated on those things. Understand the lingo a little bit so that when your investors or your lawyers or your advisors are trying to tell you something, you actually understand it. Because at the last minute, there's panic, right? When you're actually trying to to take that cash or take the check. And there's your advisors are telling you these are the issues, and you don't understand the lingo. It's kind of hard at that point to get caught up.
Right. Now, what happens if, you see things that you don't necessarily agree with? Not necessarily from a professional perspective, but you're saying, guys, listen, something here doesn't seem right, or maybe this contract doesn't look good, but the founders don't really agree, or they don't really understand. Does that happen often? Does that ever happen?
That does. And I'm a straight shooter. I tell it like it is. I will say, listen to me. This is what you're agreeing to. I mean, it's fine if this is what you want to do. At the end of the day, I understand it's a business decision, but this is outside the norm, and these are the ways this could go wrong, and I've seen it go wrong, and you need to be careful. But then I always end that kind of harsh conversation with, but I'm not the CEO of a company. I'm not the one trying to make payroll in 2 weeks, right? Like if this is what you need to do to survive, like I get it. Like running a business is hard, and I don't want to, as a lawyer, I don't want to stand in the way and say no, you absolutely should not do this, because you do have to, as a CEO, you do have to manage risk, right? And my job is to give you advice and to kind of show the red warning signs, but I recognize that companies need to do what they need to do to survive.
So
as long as you're going into it. Yeah.
If you look at your, day to day, or the things that you get to do now with incredible people, and it sounds like you get to work with some of the best of the best, and I'm sure they're also just really great people to work with, not just professionally but also personally. Yeah. What are some of the most enjoyable pieces of your work that I, as somebody who is not a lawyer and doesn't understand a lot of it, how can I, live through your job?
It's exciting. It's exciting to see somebody who's living in like a 1-bedroom apartment and barely trying to make rent, and then to see them make millions, in 5 short years. I love that. And then, there's a lot of companies that do fail, obviously, but usually these guys land on their feet. Even when that company fails, they'll just go get a job at Google or Facebook, right? Like they'll be fine. But when they make it, it's really nice, and it's really nice for me to see, how far they've come. That's the most exciting. And then just getting that. It's not just always about the money, right? It's that validation that they get, which is really nice to see. That there are, there's 2 years ago they were struggling. They didn't know if anybody wanted this product, and then to see happy customers, see happy investors, the market is happy to and appreciative of what it is they're offering. They're excited about that.
That's amazing.
That doesn't get reported as much, that kind of personal achievement that they feel.
And I'm sure that, closing the circle, we started by talking about, young entrepreneurs and how, fun it is to see backpacks coming in. I'm sure that you also see them, grow personally, individually. They mature probably throughout a lot of these experiences. They take more responsibilities. You're seeing them hire their first employees, onboard their first investors and board members, and then negotiate with some of the greatest companies. That must be a really maturing experience.
It is. And like I said, I have founders who are on to their 3rd or 4th venture. And that's great. I've known them since they had little kids, or sometimes before they were even married. And then to see, and we talk about our children and the divorces, obviously, and all of it. But that's, yeah. And then the second time they do it, they're so much smarter. They know so much. And it's just a much more pleasant working relationship because we've gone through all the learning.
I love it.
And then it's just a matter of trying to navigate the VC world. Yeah.
Right. This is so great. And I really want to thank you for coming on. This was so enjoyable for me. And, hearing, the amazing side of the personality of the relationship between the counsel and the entrepreneurs. I think it's so cool. I do have a few last questions for you if you're ready for them.
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I forgot. I didn't even prepare. Okay, let's go.
Favorite subject in school, middle or high school?
History.
History. I
Yeah.
like that.
I loved pretending like I was in the colonial era. I loved the history. It's like a story to me. It's like reading a story. I love history. I love
That's
the Roman history, the early colonial history. Yeah.
very, very cool. One of your role models, somebody that you look up to.
Gosh, I can have to pick only one. um, I would say my partner, David Siegel. He's my buddy. I've learned so much from him, and we have a great working relationship. And I know it's weird to have your partner as your role model, but running the firm with him has been such a amazing learning experience, and it's brought us so much closer. But also, I think it's made me a better lawyer, and it's made me a better manager. And
Amazing.
I hope to be like him one day.
That's very, very sweet. The last question, non-committing, but 3 words that you would choose to describe yourself, or if I were to ask your partner, how would you describe Mithil?
I actually asked them this yesterday. I asked him and my husband yesterday. I'm like, you two know me better than anyone.
Okay.
And so quirky, I would say I'm pretty quirky and silly. Um, I think I've gotten that a lot from men in my life, which is not always. I don't know if that's a compliment or what, but yeah, definitely quirky. And what's another? I would say I'm a cheerleader for my clients, right? Like
Okay.
I'm excited for them. I want them to do well, and uh, I'm excited to help them accomplish what they want, and not just my clients, right? My friends, family. I'm always rooting for people and hoping for the best for them, and excited for them. So cheerleader is probably the other word, and then no filter, I think, is the third one. I have absolutely no filter. I just say whatever's on my mind, which is
That's
not necessarily a good thing, but not
I
something
think
I
it's
can
a very,
control
very good
either.
thing. And that
I
is
can't control it. I've tried. All it does is just it makes me depressed and it makes me awkward. I have to just lean into it and go with it.
I love it. Thank you so, so much for coming on. This was so great. I look forward to sharing this. Thank you for sharing your insights and your passion on your own journey. It was really, really interesting and joyous for me to listen to it. And stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.